I've been getting a lot of questions on Reddit about Foundry and Project Foo, which is the Fabula Ultima implementation that's available on Foundry. I'm not a streamer. I'm not really a YouTube creator or anything like that, but I thought I would do a little video showcase of what Project Foo can do. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a vanilla world, everything that you would have just whenever you came from installing Foundry, whether that's local or using something like the Forge, which is what I use. A little note here, I'm not an expert on the Forge. I'm not an expert on Foundry. I'm not an expert on Fabula Ultima, and I'm not an expert on Project Foo. I used it extensively last winter, but I have not used it since. The developers, who are fantastic, keep making additions to it, so it has improved. So a lot of my knowledge is really out of date because what I do is we use virtual gaming during the winter months so that we don't have to drive to a central location to game, and then whenever the weather is good, we switch over to face-to-face gaming. And so right now I'm in my face-to-face gaming era still. So I have really haven't paid much attention to the updates that have been going on. But the general gist will still be the same. There are just going to be a few things that maybe I'm not up to date on. So please feel free to correct, add on, yes, and me. That is fantastic. I may create more of these in the future if there's demand for it, but um, here we go. I'm using the current non-alpha, non-beta versions of Foundry and Project Foo. So that's Foundry version 12, build 331, and it's Fabula Ultima Project Foo 2.3.11. So what I'm going to do is I've already got my systems installed and such. If you need help doing that, general Foundry, there are general Foundry tutorials that can help you accomplish that. Um, it's pretty straightforward. Uh, there's nothing there's nothing complicated about it. So anyway, let's go to create world. Please, these are all of my existing worlds. We're not going to use any of those right now. So we'll just give it a name and we'll call it um, Fabula Test World. And here's a game system. Now, if it'll only show the systems that you have installed. I've installed Project Foo already, so pick that. The rest of it, you don't really need to do anything. Um, so we hit Create World, and there we see our new world set up with Project Foo. I'm going to launch the world. Now, the only account that will exist at the start is the Game Master account because you as the game master you're going to want to set this up in advance of your players joining your world. You're going to want to tweak some things. You're definitely going to want to play with it, especially if you're the person who's going to be explaining to your players how to use the system. So join game system or session. All right, game always starts up paused. uh, what paused means is there are certain player actions that aren't possible when the game is paused. The game master can still do anything, but if players were logged in, they wouldn't be able to, for instance, move tokens around on a map, which of course we don't have a map right now. So let's unpause the game. Just hit the space bar, pause, unpause. I just don't like seeing that little thing there, so I like to have it unpaused. Okay, over here in the left-hand side, these are the major controls that you have for selecting tokens and drawing things on your map. Of course, you can import maps into Foundry and all of that sort of thing. How much you need of that in Fabula Ultima, you don't need as much of that as you do in a traditional RPG like Dungeons and Dragons. But you probably still want to have some kind of visuals on screen, um, whether you're actually using it as a map or not, just to have something for the players to look at. Um, Again, that's sort of like a something that there are general Foundry tutorials that can help you with. But if there's a need for this kind of stuff, then I'll create something later. Um, so some of these controls players wouldn't see. Only the game master will have access to lighting controls and ambient sound and things like that. Um, I'm really not sure what that is. That's new to me. That's something they've added. This would be something this little Project Foo button here would be something that's specific to the Project Foo module. Down here, this is where you have your macros. Of course, there are no macros installed by default. And then here you can see the list of players who are currently online. Um, Over here, this is where really this area here, I don't know the official names for things. Like I said, I'm not a pro Foundry expert, but this area is where this is the meat and potatoes of of the system. This is where if you have to dig into something, this is going to be where it's going to happen is over here. So by default, we are on the chat messages tab. So I can type down here, hello, and everyone would see that. There's also ways to whisper just to specific players, um, do private roles. I really don't use this kind of stuff much. If I want to do a private roll, honestly, a lot of times I just roll a physical die. If I don't want the players to even know that I rolled something, I don't need to roll it here, but I can just roll it physical dice on the table and I make a note of what happened. That really doesn't come up in Fabula Ultima much anyway, I think. So, uh, you know, Foundry is in many ways overkill for Fabula Ultima. The great thing about Foundry is that it is very customizable, but you will have to dig under the hood. So we're going to skip most of these things here in the middle for now, because what I want to show you is over here in game settings. Over here, you can configure settings. Now, this core part, this just has to do with the settings of Foundry itself. These are, well, this core. All is literally showing you everything. And so this just has to do with sometimes you're going to need to come here to set things up to make it work the way your game needs sometimes. But generally speaking, the default settings are pretty good. Then whenever we click on Fabula Ultima Project Foo, these are the settings that the developers have built in for us. Like for instance, right there, you can see on screen this manage optional rules. You can enable quirks, enable zero powers, and enable camping activities. Um, and then be sure on most screens in Foundry, you will actually need to save for whatever you've done to take effect. Um, the behavior role has to do with random targeting, which is how the bad guys usually will target enemies. Um, this is kind of new to me, I think. At least I never noticed it before. I think this is something they've added since I was using this actively. Um, I had to do this through creating macros, and it doesn't look like you have to do that anymore. Again, this is also new. Experimental Combat HUD is new to me. Very interesting. I really don't know what it is. You'd have to play around with it to understand. And well, this is all new. Meta currency. I really don't know what we're talking about here. Okay. Um. So anyway, oh, this is a great one. The Enable Experimental Combat Tracker. This is something that I use in my game. The the initiative in Fabula Ultima works very different than in a standard game where everyone has an individual initiative score. Well, maybe that's an optional rule. Hmm. Anyway, it's the style that I use in Fabula Ultima where the players go one round and then bad guys go and the players go back and forth. So that again, I used to have to install a module to do this. Modules are a great way to extend the capabilities of Foundry, but they do add to how complicated it is. Um, this is almost all new. I think the last time that I looked at the settings of Project Foo, there were just two or three things here. So this is something we'll have to come back to in a later video when I'm more up to date on it. And then we'll save changes. Very typical. You have to do a reload. Not really a big deal unless you're doing that with players online, because they'll at this point all be saying, "Hey, what happened? I just got kicked off." Um, and then I don't have any modules installed currently. I'm not going to install any today, but I'm going to show you where you would do that. Manage modules. When you install modules into Foundry, it doesn't enable them by default in your worlds. Now, I have I play a lot more than just Fabula Ultima, so a lot of these are not relevant to Fabula Ultima. Or there's sometimes there are things I use sometimes, but not all the time. The thing that you need to know about modules is that they're fantastic, um, but they're generally programmed by volunteers who normally usually do fantastic work. Sometimes you can have ones that clash because Team A doesn't know what Team B is doing, so sometimes there may be small incompatibilities. Um, and the other thing is of course, don't enable modules that you don't need. That's just going to be bloat inside of Foundry. Um, I play in another online game where we've experienced that, unfortunately, um, because it might run like I have a fairly beefy system. So a lot of things like I may install it on here and it works fantastic for me, no problem on my computer. And then one of my players has a really weak PC that's really struggling to uh, get by. And we find that it's not a great idea to have absolutely everything enabled all at once. That being said, you don't have to be completely afraid of it. Most modules really don't have that much overhead. Um, just that there are some, especially ones that I think have do visual effects. They can have a lot of overhead and they can really drag performance down if you have a ton of those. Another one is ones that really enable a lot of automation that they can create some lag. Um, for instance, I was playing in a Pathfinder game and there was uh, a module that makes NPCs move around on paths realistically, like in a video game. Um, and it's great on paper, but then whenever you have 6 computers all logged in on various internet connections around the world, it just tended to go bonkers in the end. Um, really have not encountered any issues with any modules that I've installed for Fabula Ultima games. We tend to not need that sort of high overhead stuff. Okay, so that's where you would go in, and then if I want to create another user, it's going to take me out, and I can create an additional user here. I have a player, so Henrietta is. I could give a password. I could leave it default. A lot of time, I usually just leave these default. I haven't had a problem with random strangers logging in, but you do whatever works for you, and then save and return. Now there's a user called Henrietta. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a character for Henrietta. We're going to, up here, we're going to look at the tabs. We're going to change over to the actors tab. Actors would be anything that has a token on a screen in a traditional game would be an actor. So your PCs, your NPCs, these would be actors. So we're going to create an actor for Henrietta. We'll call this one uh, Julia. And we will create, oh, see here, I could do character or NPC. They have slightly different sheets. This is going to create a character sheet for them. And this is the character sheet that you have for Fabula Ultima. It it does do things like calculate hit points and stuff in a general sense. Like it understands that if you're level 5 and you're well, like let's go ahead and move to that. You can see the maximum hit points are changing by changing the might. Now this is where you would put their baseline attributes of a character. Okay, you wouldn't change this like say that they are weakened, which I think reduces might. Um, you wouldn't go in and change that because that would change their hit point maximum, uh, which would not be correct. What you would do instead is we're going to go ahead and use the rest icon to bring Julia up to maximum hit points. Of course, by default, you're level 5, but we haven't actually added any classes or anything to this. This is an incomplete character. Um, what you would do instead is, so you got Dex up, Dex down, and such. Or you could just say weakened. You see the little token there next to might, showing that the might, even though Julia's might is D8, there's an effect that's currently making it act as if it's a D6. And that will automatically work. So let's go to roll a check. We're going to roll might plus dex. Oh, so might plus dex, and hit roll check, and it happens. Now you may have heard the dice roll. I don't know if the audio is on, but that will pop up over in the chat, and you'll see the result of the might and the dex and the total. And then you can also do group checks. Of course, you'll need multiple characters with that. To do a group check, one player would initiate the group check, and then everyone else would get to roll for it. So you hit might plus might, let's say, initiate the group check. All the players would get a chance to, this would pop up on their screens. They would get a chance to roll the group check, and you would see them, supporters, you would see a list and whether or not they succeeded in supporting you or failed in supporting you. And then the leader will roll last. And again, it comes up in the chat. Now there's a helpful module that I really do like. Let's go ahead and enable it. Um, Manage modules called Dice So Nice. I think this is the one. So I've already installed it. So now I'm going to enable it, save the module settings. It'll force a reload. And now, whenever we go back to Julia, open them up, and let's roll a check. Might plus dexterity, that's fine. You can see the physical dice on the screen. They still show up here in the chat. The thing that um, Fabula Ultima Project Foo doesn't do yet, as far as I know, is it doesn't automatically apply things to enemies. So if I get a certain amount of damage, say that Julia attacked and did 10 points of damage, it doesn't think automatically apply it to an enemy. Let's go ahead and give Julia a few things. Let's create this character, at least in a very short form. We go over here to classes, and we're going to add a class. Now remember, we have nothing in our Project Foo compendiums like classes and skills and such, so we have to do everything manually at this point. So we're going to make them a, let's say, weapon master. Oh, we have to go here to the edit button. You could, now when I'm changing things here, this is not creating the class for all characters to use. Everything that I click on and edit from a character sheet is only editing the local version that exists for this character. So if I create the um, weapon master class here, it's just Julia's weapon master. It doesn't exist for anybody else. And let's say that that gives us bonus hit points, and we get melee proficiency and armor and shield. I really can't remember. I don't have the book with open right now, so I really can't remember the exact benefits. So I could put a source here if I wanted to, like page whatever of the core book. There are ways to, even if you have your PDFs uploaded into Foundry, which that's getting into really advanced stuff as far as I'm concerned. There are ways to link it to specific pages, or in journals, if you create journal entries with these, like the full description of the class, whatever, you could link it to that. I really don't want to get into that right now because I really don't remember the nitty gritty of how you do that. So, and then here, if we wanted to make a description, we could, well, you have a summary, right? Um, I'm not using the official descriptions. And then now that one there will automatically save. But down here, if we want to do something here, like we could write up a full description of the class, and you have a lot of formatting options down here, including, this is new to me, you have this thing here where you have access to a great set of icons that the fan community has added to this. Uh, Back when I did mine, you didn't have any of this. Uh, so apparently this, oh, I'm guessing that that might create an actual link that you could touch or, click on and have something happen. Anyway, uh, after you put in your description, again, you do have to hit the save. If you don't do that, it'll go away as soon as you close this box. So now we have Weapon Master in here, and we're going to give it some levels. So we're going to say 4 levels of Weapon Master, and we're going to add um, another class. Edit. We'll just say Rogue, and oh, see, I didn't save that. Oh, looks like it may have automatically saved. Oh, well, it would at least keep it until I closed this box, but it would have went away when I closed it if I didn't save it. So anyway, go to attributes. I can't remember what rogues get offhand. Not sure that they get anything. So we'll just leave that alone. So 1 level of rogue, 4 levels of weapon master, and as you can see, Julia's hit point maximum is now 50 because weapon master we chose for it to get the 5 bonus hit points for the first level of weapon master. So that's now updated automatically. And again, you can hit the little rest icon to heal everybody up completely, but we still don't have skills. So you would go in here and you could create skills. Um, I'm not going to go through the full process of creating a skill, but let's just make a generic skill, and we could say this is a weapon master skill. I'm a horrible typist, and that you can have a maximum of four four skill levels. This is kind of new to me. Apparently, there's some automation that can happen in here. Um, so these again are tabs coming across attributes and effects and such. Um, Sorry, like I said, I'm kind of learning at the same time. But anyway, we put in here max skill level of 4. So now you'll notice there's only 4 stars available. There were 10 probably before. So let's just say that Julia has 4 levels of generic skill from Weapon Master, and again, this has nothing to do with what actually exists in the game. I was just trying to show you how to add skills, and then she would have another skill from being a rogue. Just say rogue skill. Say the maximum level is 1 on that, and close. There we go. And then also, a good thing is if you actually have the full text added into the description of a skill, what you're going to see is over here in the chat. If I click on there, you're going to see the full, everything about it. Um, Weapon Master. Okay, here you can see the description that I entered. There's that summary and the description of the class that I added, which was nothing. Um, this is a great way to, hey, I think this rule. It's just a great way to communicate with other characters, other players. That whenever you're doing something, if you need to refresh them on the rule for something, you can send it to the chat. Okay, let's go over here to items and let's give Julia a weapon. And like I said, I'm not even looking at the book. We will edit and say it's a sword, it's one-handed, and of course it's a melee weapon. And then go to attributes. See, like this would be high roll 0. Oh, well, high roll of 0 is martial. Let's say it's a martial weapon and such. Let's say it's might plus dex, the bonus of 1, or actually more likely it's 5. Defense, whether it's physical defense or magical defense. And then you can change the damage types of the weapon and bonus damage. So, oh, this would be the bonus to hit. It wouldn't get that. Let's say the bonus damage is 5. Let's change the weapon to something less generic. Let's just say Kopesh, which is a type of sword. Now, whenever Julia clicks that, it will automatically roll Julia's might plus dex. And look at how it formatted it over here in the uh, chat. It told you what it is that she rolled, 1 for might and 4 for dex, and that it was the high roll was a 4. It has a +5 to damage, that +5 bonus damage that I assigned to it, 9 physical damage. Apparently, you can apply this directly to tokens now, so that's something new to me. Now, what I really should have done is I should have whipped it. And also, I can click this little favorite, and now on the front page of Julia's character sheet, it's going to be here. Anything that you favorite, like a spell or whatever, you can hit that little star, and then it's going to be right there on your main page. Very useful for the things that you do frequently. Um, and let's go ahead and let's give Julia some armor and shield and show how to enable those. Go back to items, shields. We'll add a shield. Let's just say that it's um, now this might work different than what I said. It's +1, I think. So it's martial, and there we go. Let's equip it and see what happens to her defense. There we go. See, it changed from 8 to a 9 because she's equipped her shield. Now, if we now remember what I typed in there was +1. It adds 1 to her defense, physical defense. So now let's go down to armor. Oh, notice that whenever I equipped the shield, it unequipped the Kopeck. That's because I just left clicked for each. You left for the main hand, right for the offhand. Of course, it doesn't matter if which one is your offhand and which is your main hand, right or left. So let's just now the sword and the shield are equipped. And then let's add some armor. And again, I'm just doing generic armor. Now, martial armor, let's say that it's martial armor that gives you a defense of 10 and magical defense of +1. So what we should see happen here, when I equip this, oh, it added 10. That's not right. I think you do this. Okay. Right. Oh, well, you would actually, over here, you would say it's martial. I like how it automatically brought up the martial icon. And now, yeah. So Julia's defense is 10 from the armor, which replaces her normal defense that's based on dex, because it would have been an 8. So without the armor, it's based on it. Without the armor and the shield, it's now an 8. I equip the armor, it's a 10. With the shield, it will add +1, it's 11. So that's that. Um, so now we have this character done. And when we go over here, the compendium packs, what is this? Oh, that's new. Some things have been added in this. Project Food did not originally come with anything in its compendium. It doesn't have much here, but it does have some. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a compendium. Say I'm going to start adding in classes for everybody to use. So I'm going to create one called classes. And you would think, oh, okay, those affects actors. No, it's actually an item. Classes are items that go onto actors. Don't think of items as physical things that actors have. It's an item in the sense that it's a thing that goes on the actor. So we create the compendium. It's got the little briefcase icon. So that's how you know that it's a compendium, because I could create a folder and call it Fabula. And then I'm going to stick my compendiums inside of it. That's because you might import other compendiums for other other things. Like for instance, and you might have a compendium full of maps or music and all kinds of things. So you may want to take care to keep your compendium area over here organized, because it can quickly become an absolute nightmare, just a mess. So we open up classes and now we get this box over here. We're going to create an item. Let's create another class. Let's call it Entropist. And then on the drop down, just pick class. Now I see that there are some new types of items available that weren't available back when I was doing mine. So um, This looks just like what we had before. It is the same kind of thing, but this is different. This is now creating a generic one that applies to the whole world in a way. Um, this think of this as a master that whenever you'll be able to drag it, it has the same settings as what we saw before. I'm not going to go through the trouble of actually updating all these things to be correct for the Entropist class, but what you can see is now we have this Entropist class. And let's open up Julia again. Let's say that she's earned enough XP to go up a level. You can track your XP here, of course, but let's just say she's already earned 10. She's going to go up a level. She's level 6 now. You see that the hit points and the magic points automatically updated. Let's give her a rest. And also, let's take weaken back off of her. Uh, to add a level of interest, all we need to do is open up our classes tab and drag and drop Entropist. And then what happened there is it copied whatever the game master has set up for the Entropist entry, got copied here. Now, if I go in here and I begin editing this, it's only going to be editing it for Julia. So if I make a change here and let's say I'm going to add something to the description, this should only be for Julia, and I save it. When I open up the Entropist class here for Julia, that's that change is reflected here. But whenever I open up the master, it's not there because the changes don't propagate backwards. So whenever you edit your classes or any item that's in your compendium, you want to edit the master version of it. Then you could even take and you could delete, like I could delete this class from Julia right now and drag in the new version. Actually, let's help illustrate that. Let's edit this version. Change this for everyone. And now we drag this on and you'll see that it's from that master source. There are a lot of types of items that you have to create if you want to really pull in everything from Fabula Ultima. And you could do it all in a single compendium if you wanted to, but it's going to get pretty complicated. You can use folders to help organize things, which I would recommend. You can create a folder here and you could say for book classes, whatever organization system makes sense to you, right? I'm going to drag Entropist into there. It won't even show up until I open up that folder. And then uh, let's just look at the other types of items you can create. On this pull down here, you can see accessories. These are the equipable accessories that characters could have. Armors. I really don't know what basic is for. Behaviors, a little bit more complicated than something I normally use. Classes, class features. This one's new to me. Consumables, heroic. I'm presuming that's heroic skills. I really don't know what miscellaneous abilities for. Optional feature, again, don't know what it's for. Projects would be projects out of the core books. Rituals, rule, again, don't know what that is for exactly. Shield skills. This is the one the equipment ones like accessories and armor and weapons, you're going to use. And then you're also going to want to use, you're going to want to create spells, your skills, and your classes. Probably class features. I'm not sure exactly what class feature is. Let's just see. Oh, great. This this is incredible. This didn't exist whenever I made my version. Um, so apparently you can do Arcanum straight in here. You can do dances, symbols. Wow, this is really, really incredible. Um, I haven't used any of this, so I can't give advice, but I had to use really some wacky technique to try to get those into my game before. I'm guessing like right now you see merge benefit and dismiss. Um, that's because Arcanum is selected, but yeah, you're going to see different screens that are relevant to the subtype that you're using. This is incredible. It looks like with this, a lot of these class features before I implemented them as spells, which is a very, very hacky way to do it. It really didn't work properly. They've laid the developers have laid the groundwork to implement things, everything properly. It looks like now. So I believe that what is coming soon is that that the creator of Fabula Ultima has released a lot of the material. Um, uh, Public domain is not the right word, but he's released it for fan use in some ways, and um, so I believe that these things are coming so that you won't have to create all of your classes, you won't have to create all the skills and such. Um, it really takes a long time to go through the book and put everything in manually. For me, my experience was that was about 30 hours of work, I would guess. And I really had to do a lot of hacky things to make things work. Looks like they've laid the groundwork to make it work easier now. I would imagine that because you don't have to do so many hacky things, it would probably be quicker nowadays, but it's still going to be a lot of work. It's a massive amount of labor. Now the thing is that you can also import things using JSON uh, from Fultimator. You have to install and enable the proper module to do that. So I think it's this one here, the Fabula Ultima PDF parser. Let's just the PDF parser does several things, but the most important thing is the importing the JSON from Fultimator. So now when we go over here to game settings, I think maybe I'm wrong. Oh yeah, okay. Import PDF and import Fultimator. So let's open up Fultimator. I'm already logged in. Um, let's go to the adversary compendium and let's just grab a random creature here. So it's level 10 beast. There we go. We'll grab in the saber wolf that someone has already was AJ Beaumont has graciously added to the site. We go down here, we hit export as JSON file. I think we might be able to just copy that to clipboard. And then import Ultimator. Control V, paste, import data. Did it do it? Okay. All right, so I used, it wouldn't let me just right click to paste. I had to use Control V. Now when I go over here to actors, I'll see that there's Saberwolf. So now I have Julia and Saberwolf. Saberwolf is an NPC, so the sheet is a little different. Um, it doesn't have an icon or anything like that by default. Um, and that would be uh, how to import, like I said, an NPC. Let's go back to Fultimator and let's go to Character Designer. Let's create a character real quick. We will create a character. One of these here. All right, we're not going to go through the full character creation. Instead, what we're going to do is we're just going to add a couple classes. So out of the core book, we're going to add some levels of sharpshooter, add, and going to make that level 3. Let's just say we add weapon mastery, 2 levels of that, and a level of warning shot. Okay, and then we're going to add 2 levels of elementalist. And down here on elementalist, we're going to change this to level 2. And we're going to add in elemental magic. We're going to take 3 levels of that skill, or well, 2 levels of that skill. And that means we should be able to go over here and we have the elementalist class will give us some spells. We're going to add from Compendium, we're going to add Flare, and we're going to add another spell. Add from Compendium, Ignis. So now we've got some spells, we've got some classes, we've got some skills added already. Let's do some equipment. Let's add a short bow and save the changes. And we're going to add some armor. Yeah, silk shirt. Fine. Like I said, I'm just trying to create this in a hurry. Give this character a name. Right. Like I said, we left a lot of things to follow. This is really an incomplete character, just with some important part bits added, the mechanical bits. So we go back out here. Oh, wait a minute. We want to save. Where do we do that? Oh, way down here. All right, so I've got this character, Testerator. I'm going to copy that JSON to the clipboard again. Go to the Foundry, go here to Settings, Import Ultimator, and Control V, import data. Now, Testerator should have been added as a PC, and they were. So you can see that it added the classes, and when we click for the description, it doesn't actually have the text description part, but it looks like it's added the other parts, probably the mechanical bits. Probably the same thing for, yeah, for the skills. Now I'm not sure if it mechanically did what it's supposed to do. Might have. So what I mean is, like, with ranged weapon mastery, obviously you get, with level 2 you would get a +2 with ranged weapons. I'm not sure that it's applying that properly, but also we should see we've got spells here. Like I said, once again, it does have a more thorough description here in spells and Ignis. And then of course if we cast that spell, cast it, just let's add that to favorites. And let's go to items and make sure these things are equipped. Okay, and then to add that to favorites. Go back over here. So with the short bow, we've got a dex of D8. Of course, the short bow is D8 plus D8. All right. Yeah, so it didn't do the things that it should do um for weapon mastery. Um, Also, like, I just cast the spell there, it didn't automatically take the magic points off. What you would have to do is you would have to say, oh well, Flare uses 20 magic points, so now everyone has 30, and that would update it. Then for the bow, what you have to do is there are other ways to do this, but one way, be over here in settings. Well, they haven't upgraded this yet, unfortunately. They've got an accuracy check bonus, but that would affect all accuracy checks. You really wouldn't want to put that here. What you really want to do is you only want to affect a ranged accuracy check. So for this character, what I would do is if I was playing them, I would go into the items, and this is a ranged weapon. So I'm going to edit it in the attributes here. I'm going to give them a ranged bonus equal to my skill level in ranged weapon mastery. There could be a better way to do this. This is just based on what I had to do before. Unfortunately, if they pick up another ranged weapon, it's not going to automatically um, know to add that bonus. So now, when we go back here and we do an attack with the short bow, what we should see happen is 8 plus 7 plus 2 is 17. That's correct. And of course, anything that affects our dex, that's going to automatically change our defense if we're not wearing martial armor, at least. Um, and we're going to get uh, that bonus applied because our die is now temporarily acting as if it's a d10. So as you can see, it was rolling d10s. The roll wasn't as high, but that's because our roll was great last time. So that's the gist of how to add things that you can create characters manually, one by one, and add their classes and such. You can, if the game master has a lot of motivation, they can go in and they can create that compendium, so you can just drag and drop items on the characters, create them very quickly. Or you can um, import from Ultimator. All right, I'm going to now go out to show you my setup so you can see where you can get. So we'll go, I think we have to return to setup. This is my custom world that I haven't used in a long time. I know it says that I used it recently. That's just because I started it up to look at it, but I haven't actually used it for many, many, many months. Game master has to log in, go to game session. I have a lot of custom modules installed on here, so you're not going to see some of this in your game. Please don't ask me right now, at least how I did any of this, because honestly, I don't necessarily remember. I really don't know what that button does. Um, so these are my player characters on the map here, and this is sort of an overland map that I'm using. Um, so my modules, you're going to see a lot more. I put skills in with classes. And so you're going to like look at classes. I've imported icons in for the classes, all that kind of thing. And look at weapon master here. These are the descriptions out of the core book and uh, things added in for. And then, like I said, like if I click, oh no, if I click that, it should, yeah, because I've put my PDFs on here and I've linked them all properly, blah, blah, blah. You can get straight to it. And then if I was going to create a character, what I did is over here in journals, I created I created journals that I already took and I, out of my compendiums, I did drag and drop into here and I edited, I wrote this up as usable guides for player characters. So if I was going to create a character, I could tell them I wouldn't even have to have them open the compendiums because for some reason some of my players get a little confused at the compendium way of creating a character. So I could create an actor here. Um, and now we're going to say he's an elementalist. So classes, just drag and drop that in class into that. And then there's the skills that are available. Of course, they can click on them. You can read the full description. And then if that's what you want, say elemental magic, drag and drop that in for level 4. And then you always have to have 2 classes. So let's just take Spiritist and um, drag Spiritist and Spiritual Magic. Of course, I forgot to pick spells for the Elementalist. But let's just say Awaken, and then Elementalist. I would pick Flare, Iceberg, Ignis. Here. So we got a bunch of spells. We got a bunch of. You get the idea. Um, so this would be one way you could organize your your setup to make it very easy to add things in. Of course, I don't have like a generic shop set up for them to be able to bring in the items, so they would still have to do that from the journal. But you get the idea. Anyway, what I wanted to show you is that this is what it looks like when you have a map, and you can go into the token select tool here, select this little pop-up you're seeing at the side showing the hit points and such. That's from a module that I've added on. But the character could be moved. I just have freeform on this map. Um, and then this is actually what I use to show where the group is on the world map. The statistics of it are meaningless, but you get the idea. That's that's what Foundry looks like. Also, um, there's probably a way to do. I like I said, I've got a lot of modules installed on here, so I could add clock though with call it Doom 4-segment clock confirm. Now I've got a Doom clock. Right click on it to add. I think this is from a module that I added. I think that it was maybe Lancer clocks. I just wanted to show you what it would look like whenever you have tokens on a map. Um, so we will log out. That is the gist of Project Foo on Foundry. All right, thanks for listening to this incredibly long video.